Probably 40 now. Packing them in, front row. Front row. Yeah. Love it. That's a tough seat. The corner in the wall over there, that's a tough seat. You gotta like kind of, you know. Are you a walking walker like me or how?
Yeah.
So I don't want to be on the case.
Oh, okay, got it. My family got it.
That's why I kind of put it on the ground as a marker.
You put the X, you put your orange or green X on the floor with tape.
I need this sort of green background. Like, like just let's make this a green screen. Time. What do we got, Sean? 45. Okay.
She's not liking that. Is that she's not liking different?
I start 30 seconds. If there's no one there, I'm gonna start now. All right, we good? All right, two. Two more people. Guys, we're gonna get started in like 30 seconds. I'm sorry, buddy. Okay. We swap mics. Very good. Do we swap mics? Power mics. Where's the power mic? This one.
Dave did it.
I think we used that one.
It should be on.
Oh, just on?
Hello?
Okay. Thanks, guys. I think there's a couple seats in the front, guys.
Perfect.
We're almost at capacity. Yep, there you go. Thank you. All right, guys, we're going to get started. So thank you for coming out this morning. I guess it's late morning now. My name is Paul Morano. I work for Microsoft. So essentially what I do is I manage the relationship between D&H and Microsoft on the sale of software, so client, server, and office, and then also on helping them drive commercial devices. So whether it be SMB, mid-market, or enterprise, essentially anything with Pro, that's from third parties. So HP, Lenovo, Dell, Asus. I do not handle Surface. So I'm going to talk to you today about what we've been calling the cost of doing nothing, on why we should have a conversation with our partners about refreshing hardware that's 4 to 7 years old. I'm going to talk about some trends in the marketplace that we see. I'm going to give you guys an idea of what the market opportunity is, and hopefully give you guys some knowledge to overcome some of the conversation points that your customers may be pushing back on you when you have that refresh conversation. Then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Matt Arnold over here, my friend, who's going to talk to you a little bit about D&H's DAS service, so DAS, Device as a Service. It's a great way specifically to help overcome the conversation of, hey, this PC to buy now is too much money, right? So things we can do around that. So without further ado, I'll begin. Sean, please. So I talk to a lot of people. A lot of people read a lot of publications, and I think there's kind of a, I don't want to say mixed message, but there's varying opinions out there in the marketplace now. Some will kind of talk about lukewarm on whether device sales are going to actually grow year over year. I'm here to tell you that in our own internal analytics and our own marketing insights, we feel it's going to grow about 3% year over year. So first thing to think about, PC markets will grow. It's not a declining market, right? Second thing to think about on this slide is IT spend. So yes, conversations used to be all at the IT level on IT spend, and that still happens. More so now, there's more and more people involved with that conversation when they want to outlay capital expense to buy PC. But people are willing to spend about 6% of their budget, right? So growing market plus willingness to spend, climate is not bad right now, certainly to have a device refresh conversation. I will say one other thing too in the center, and you'll hear me talk a lot about Windows 7 versus Windows 10, because I think a lot of times that's the conversation. If a device is 4 to 7 years old, chances are it's 7 PC, and chances are they're holding on to it for cost or because their apps work or they're just comfortable using it. Windows 10, believe it or not, is our highest customer sat rated OS ever. So I know a lot of people joke like we have off and on years for, not on in years, but off and on errors in our software. 7, great. 8, let's skip over. 10, great. 10 is actually the highest customer sat of them all. So a lot of good inertia there. Specifically on Win 10, Sean, if you want to switch, please. Sorry. You could build it all out. So a huge base right now, Windows 10 users out there. This stat's actually a little bit old, but we'll call it 600 million users plus. So a very, very large embedded base on a very highly satisfied customer sat OS. Believe it or not, if you look in the bottom left, 70% of the enterprise space is actually in piloting Windows 10 in their environment. So it's not just end users going to Best Buy buying a home PC because their old one crapped out. Enterprises are testing and migrating and moving over as well and piloting. 99%, so let's focus on that stat for a second. So biggest reason why people do not refresh, cost. And we'll talk in depth on cost and what that means to me and how we should talk about it, or I'll give you some tips on how to talk about it. The number 2 reason is my apps work in 7. I don't know if they're going to work in Windows 10. So 99% of apps Windows 7 apps will work in Windows 10 now. So yeah, I mean, you could probably find a one-off, but there are migration services that can help, development services that can help get that over. But I'm telling you with confidence, 99% of Windows 7 apps will work in Windows 10. Next slide. So let's talk about SMB. So I'm willing to bet this room mostly calls on SMB customers. And we'll define what SMB means to Microsoft, and I'll break it down into 2 different segments. But this talks about the total addressable market in North America on PCs that are 4 to 7 years old, right? I mean, are there PCs that are 9, 10, 11 years old out there? Yeah, of course. But I'm focusing on 4 to 7 North America in SMB. The total install base is 73 million PCs, right? So again, growth in PC up 3%, IT spend on PC up 6%, and an install base that is old, 4 to 7 years old, of 73 million units. That to me is an attractive opportunity to go after for sure. So let's take that a step further and double click down. So if you look at what we kind of call SMB, 500 and below, which may be higher than what some people consider SMB, you're talking 46 million. And if you double click down on that and do 100 seats or lower, or to 100 users, 27 million, right? So depending on where in SMB you fit, there's opportunity throughout, and it's a large one. So we're gonna arm you guys with probably, I guess, the best scare moment or the best countdown clock or conversation starting point, however you wanna talk about it, Windows 7. So be honest, how many people in here knew that Windows 7 and the support's happening January 14th, 2020? So I love how these stats always pan out. So about a little more than half the room raised their hands. So guys, let me repeat that. January 14th, 2020, we will not support Windows 7 anymore, right? So people like testing OSs in their environment. People like testing apps in their environments. January 14, 2020 is not that far away, especially when people kind of look at how they're going to change or reset or refresh their hardware within their halls. Use this as a conversation starter, because I guarantee you the number one concern of someone, wherever you're in the companies you're talking to, is security, right? That's by far your best conversation starter to migrate to 10. People are concerned with security. After January 14, 2020, we are not putting out patches or working to make Windows 7 more secure. So you're basically kind of, I don't want to say on your own, but you kind of are, right? So growth is there, spend is there, install base is there, and the OS they're clinging to will no longer be secure in a little over 2 years' time. Great conversation piece. The other date I have that is not in the slide, but I'll talk about today. Does anyone know what's happening on 10/31 next week, 2018? Anybody? Halloween? Yes, no. Michael Myers? No. You have the ability right now as a reseller to purchase from D&H a Windows 10 machine downgraded to 7. So it comes shipped to you as 7. Technically, it's a 10 license that they downgrade. That ability to downgrade is going away next week, right? So there's another conversation point of you guys won't even really get 7 downgrade anymore after next week. So 2 big dates, downgrade to 7 going away 10/31/2018, and 7 support January 14, 2020. If you remember nothing else, remember those dates. Continue, Sean, thank you. So I need your guys' help. And again, this is why I love it. Honestly, I feel good about this stat because I've asked this question in a bunch of seminars, and literally a little more than half the room raises their hand about knowing about the date. And you guys are in the industry. So think about how many of your end customers are aware of it. They just don't, right? So we need your help to get that message out, to use it as a conversation point, to use it as a device refresh starting point. And again, reasons why they don't want to move, besides them liking it, the app compatibility. So 99% again will work in Windows 10. And then we touch base. The number one reason why they want to migrate is security. So Sean, you can continue. So let's talk a little bit about more of what I call the cost of doing nothing. So we all agree kind of that, well, I would assume we all agree that the number one obstacle of not buying new hardware is because what I have works and I don't want to spend money. So there's 2 ways to think about that. There's the here and now cost. So I go to D&H and I quote 10 PCs at $700 a pop, right? Yes, that's a cost. Daz will have that conversation later about how we address that. But I would argue that we need our customers to think about total cost of ownership, right? The TCO of it. So we buy a PC for $700. Let's choose that as our average starting point. PCs that are 4 years old or older, break down 1.5 times more. That's probably going to cost that company roughly about $400 over the year. So now my 700 is minus 400 is net 300 to not upgrade. Let's take it a step further in lost productivity. PCs, and I don't think anyone would argue with me on this, PCs that are 4 to 7 years old, like, can they make it 4 hours without running for a wall to charge? Do they take 30 seconds to boot up in the morning? I think we agree they do not, right? You got a mobile force, they need a PC, you want to be productive remotely, they need that charger on older machines. That lost productivity time, boot up time, lost productivity because I have a dead battery and I don't have a place to charge it because maybe I'm mobile. That adds up to what we'll call about $1,200 in lost productivity, right? Time is money. We want people to be productive when they're working. So we were at $300, right? So 700 average PC, minus 400 in repairs, and if you want to even argue that down to 150, that's fine. Minus to even $800 in lost productivity, you now have more than the cost of the PC, right? So that's how we have to think about this. That's how we have to talk about to our customers. And then the other side of that is if your end customer has a security breach in the enterprise, in the SMB space, there's a cost with cleaning that up, right? Maybe you lost a reputation, lost some business. The branding it's going to take to remarket to get back trust and earn trust. The physical cost of fixing what was happening and detecting it. The average cyber attack and data breach is about $84,000. And again, Paul, that seems high, fair enough. Even if that's $10,000, right? So I don't want to pay $7,000 to update 10 PCs in a small business at 700 pop, but I may lose $500 in repair. I may have a breach that costs me $10,000, and I may lose productivity that may cost me, even $400 or $500 ahead. It's a lot more than what you're outlaying for PCs. I think we won't argue with this. I think no matter who you're talking to, CEO down, whoever, whatever size company, there's someone in charge there that's worried about security. So, a couple other stats, and I love these two in the middle. And I'm a big stat guy because if I just talk a ton, it's hard to remember, but maybe you guys pick up a few stats that you use in your conversations. This speaks to higher enterprise, but again, we just touch base. Even if it's 10, 20 grand, chances are, think about your customers you deal with. How many of them can weather a $20,000 or $30,000 hit right now, right? For a lot of them, that's a closed sign going on the door, right? Let's be honest. Huge impact. How are things happening? 63% weak or stolen passwords, right? And then I like this last one. 87% of senior managers have accidentally leaked business data, right? So this is not my mom who's still on a flip phone, which she really is. I'm not using that as an example. She really is. Clicking on some email from Chase, which really isn't Chase. Like these are senior managers in executive positions in the enterprise environment, passing data and getting breached, right? 300,000 malware samples a day being created. We're well beyond kids messing around in their basement, or someone who's vindictive against someone. This is like nation state level, right? So keep that in mind. And Microsoft's got your back to security. So there are plenty of companies who don't make $1 billion a year in whatever they do. We're committing $1 billion just to security, to get better in Windows 10, to bring more features, to learn from breaches, to detect breaches, to proactively prevent breaches on your behalf, just running in the background, right? Through machine learning, through billions of points of data, we have your back on the security story. And in these slides I love, and some of you who may have sat in my seminars in the past have seen these, but I still have not seen a more effective visual representation of kind of our approach to security than these. So this represents a city. The dotted line is your security wall, right? Okay, at least they have some security. They're not leaving the doors unlocked and open at night on Halloween with Michael Myers in the neighborhood. They at least have some sort of security. But in this security model, I have one line of defense to breach, and then when I'm in, right? I breach here. yeah, I'm going to grab your banking info here, and then I'm going to hop over here and access your memory, then I'm going to access whatever it is, your business data here. I can run amok basically once I breach that single breach point. Our approach, you can build it out, Sean, is multiple layers, starting from boot up, where you can't root, and then isolating out the different important components of data. So now, though I got to breach once, breach twice, breach a third time, then I still don't have access there, right? It's a least privilege model, we call it, right? And the work environment we're in, and I think we all would agree, there's way more BYOD, there's way more collaboration and flexibility in how people want to work. There's machines that have personal data, professional data, and they're using it all over the place. This is critical. You can build it out, Sean, just that one first. So Win 7, security, we'll call it good. Hey, my guys love Win 7, it just works. I don't want to outlay capital. My apps work. I feel secure. There's some good things in it, no doubt about it, right? You layer Windows 10 on, Windows 10 Pro, I should say, and you layer on that much more at the OS level into the security. And I just spoke about the idea of BYOD, someone using their computer for personal and professional. There are things in Windows 10 that kind of address specifically what's happening in the market now and how people are using their devices. So information protection literally can distinguish between personal and corporate information on a PC and isolate them out and compartmentalize them. We said 63% of breaches happen because of passwords. Windows Hello takes that I forgot what my password is right out of the equation, right? So at the software level, plus modern PCs, I can use my face, I can use my fingerprint. Like, I'm not going to forget my face. If I do, that's like a really bad day, right? But again, how people are working, how people want to work, and the way people are breaching now, we're thinking about including in the OS. So getting the modern, you can build out the next slide, Sean. Thank you. Next one. So getting the modern. So modern to me is about Windows 10. It's about hardware, and it's about software, right? So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on what modern software is. If anyone is here transacting CSP through D&H, that's an example of how you think about up-to-date and always being modern. Please visit the cloud booth up at the booth up on the trade show floor later. But it's marrying the hardware with the software. So great designs, the security and performance that people want with the peace of mind that security administrators demand, right? So believe it or not, and this is true, and I forget the stat, I apologize. In the workforce today, there are people who will not work for companies based on the equipment and technology they get and use. True story, right? I mean, yeah, you're nodding, right? The millennials are becoming more and more pervasive in the workforce, and they are absolutely working differently, thinking differently, want to work differently, and they demand good hardware. It's a fact. People will walk. So you need to have the marriage of what's sexy to them with the peace of mind and security and new experiences, which is how we interact naturally with the device. Continue, please, Sean. So this slide talks about physically from a hardware standpoint what we call modern. Thin, SSD memory, 2-in-1s, detachable, touch, pen. I'm not going to read you the whole litany, but suffices to say, at a Microsoft high level, to an HP high level, Dell high level, Lenovo high level, we're all co-designing thinner, lighter, faster, better memory, longer battery machines. It's without a doubt a huge initiative that's happening. A lot of people think Surface equals modern. The portfolio outside of Surface has never been better than what I've seen right now at Microsoft at all different price ranges, including education. But so think about that. But why is it important to your customer? Because they like using it, right? So I would absolutely tip my hat to Apple about having phenomenal hardware design and the sexy factor, without a doubt. Fantastic marketers make great hardwares, marrying the OS and the hardware. Interesting enough, PSAT, so personal satisfaction on devices, on a study we did, Windows 10 on modern hardware, right? So not taking a 4-year-old machine and putting Windows 10 on it, which is better than keeping 7 on it. But modern hardware, so adjectives in this category, with Windows 10, personal satisfaction is actually higher than Apple, which is an enormous statement, right? Because they're kind of the pinnacle, right? This is what people shoot for. And we've done a great job getting there. And then what do they like, right? So we talked about ways people want to work, how they want to work, the evolution of the workforce, and how they're looking at things. So believe it or not, satisfaction relies a lot on some of the new feature sets in what I call natural interaction feature sets. So I'm assuming we're all in the IT technology industry here. We're not sitting here unless you just like hearing me talk. If you do, thank you. But every time I do a seminar like this, I look around the room and we're in the industry again, and I see people with pen and paper taking notes. Because it's natural. Because I can know my own handwriting. Because I know my own abbreviations, right? I can communicate to myself because I've been doing it forever. Surprisingly, or not surprisingly, 72% of people, pen users, digital inking with the modern PC, it's the highest satisfaction. The other one that's growing a lot, people, obviously, no common sense needed, don't like remembering passwords. If I can use my face, I'm happy, right, rather than remembering everything. So very high satisfaction there. And then Cortana is our artificial intelligence. We're all speaking to Alexas and Siris and everyone else. Cortana's ours. People like natural interaction through voice with PCs for certain things. So again, that's required on a modern platform to get that PSAT and how people want to use it and how people want to work. And then I will hear about, hey, Paul, you said market's growing 3%, spend's up 6%. I got 74 million people to go after, right? And I'm going to use Windows 7 and a support as my kind of scare tactic or force and function or conversation starter about it. Well, what are people buying within that 3%? What form factors? Where should I look at my investments? Or what part of the portfolio should I be talking about? So, not surprisingly, the biggest growth year over year is in these modern form factors. So detachables, convertibles, and ultra slims. Desktops are flat, so still a very important part of the business. And I know we do a lot of desktops still here at D&H. But the traditional $500 clunky notebook, that's where we're seeing the biggest decline. So again, there's reasons for you guys to talk about it. The customer saves money. The customer gets more productivity. And quite honestly, the workforce at your customer wants to use these devices. There's a lot of things lined up to have this conversation. And then the final slide before I turn over to Matt is we need to think beyond just the hardware, right? So this is my make money step up slide, right? I assume we're all here to make money. Do we have any pro bonos? All right, I like to yell. All right, woo! I'm sure we all do some pro bono work, which is great, but at the end of the day, we're here, we're in business because we're in business. Having just a conversation about hardware will net you a couple points of margin, right? So maybe you buy it for $700, you sell it for $750, you do some setup, support services, some other things, migration of apps, whatever you guys can charge. There's money there, I'm not lying. But the guys who are being most successful now are starting with their hardware point and then selling things like O365 through CSP, packaging up their own IP, right? It's this whole solution selling mentality of combining a lot of things where we're seeing people making the most margin, right? From left to right. I think this perfectly fits into what Matt's going to talk about in a second because, how many here have at least 2 monthly subscriptions right now? So everyone's got a cell phone, right? Do we have any non-cell phone users here? Yeah. So there's one. We probably have Amazon Prime users. We probably have Netflix users. We probably have cable users, right? That idea of what your customer base is used to, paying a monthly fee for solutions, plays here. And that customer base that is used to taking that $1,000 iPhone and instead paying $27 a month to AT&T, that's what DAS will kind of do for the hardware side. So with that, I'll turn it over to Matt, and I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Paul. I know I'm the last barrier between you and lunch, so I'll try to make this quick. But
Thanks, Paul, for giving the opportunity for us to discuss DAS. How many of you know what DAS is? How many of you have had a conversation about D&H DAS? So some of you have. So 12 months ago, when we started to talk about what DAS could be for D&H, and soliciting partner feedback and information from you folks and putting this program together, I've had about 100 partner conversations, some about the program, some about opportunities. And I want to tell you about the program today, which we've been doing. It's probably been in market for about 8 months now. So we're starting to build a good following, and people are starting to understand what D&H's DAS solution looks like. So what is Device as a Service as it relates to D&H? Really what that is taking products and services, rolling them together and moving it, and this will come up later, and this is really important, and it ties into what Paul was saying, moving it from a capital expenditure to an operating expenditure. So if you're having end users that are slow to adopt new technology, this is a way to introduce a program where they don't have to outlay a bunch of cash to do an office refresh. Go ahead, you can flip. And you can flip after this one too, I'll talk about that. So what is the program? What does it entail? It's basically tier 1 hardware, right? When I think tier 1, end user technology hardware, laptops, it's notebooks, it's 2-in-1s, it's workstations and desktops. And we take all of those devices and we add in services, which we'll talk about a little bit later. We have our aftermarket white glove services that you can also incorporate into the program. And it allows your customers to get a refresh in, maybe in a 24 or 36 month time frame. You can go ahead and flip. So here are the options, right? So we've partnered with a financing organization where we offer a 24 and a 36 month solution with the device, it's the services, which is a 24/7 onshore help desk solution, 365 days a year, and a next business day on-site solution, which, by the way, anyone who wants to participate in that can do. We're not eliminating. This is all white labeled service, right? So when we go into a customer, we're representing a white label. We're not going into your customer. We want you to own the refresh, and we want you to own the customer experience. Go ahead. You can flip this one too. I mean, this talks about really the outlay of cash, which I already touched on, right? You don't have to spend $100,000 on an office refresh. You can spend $2,000 a month and get additional services, get all your new hardware, and then do a monthly installment or term. So what are the service levels that we have? I touched on these. Level 1 and level 2 support are already built into the program. So when you do an office refresh, you automatically get the US-based, onshore, multilingual, 24/7, 365 day a year help desk service. So one of your customers within the DAS program has a notebook that goes down or a PC that goes down. They have a welcome packet which tells them about the program. They call the number, DAS technical support, how can we help you? What's the serial number of your device? And they do some troubleshooting on the phone, right? So they're attempting to solve that problem before we have to move to level 2 support, which is a DAS white labeled field service technician, which we have partners today doing DAS deals and being that on-site partner that can go out to your customer, no additional expense, no parts expense. It's all part of the program. And they will repair your device. And if the environment, in some instances, we have environments, whether that's healthcare, banking, it's not conducive to an on-site repair, we also offer a depot repair service with that as well. Any questions about the program so far?
This is a hardware support only.
It is hardware support only, but within, yes, we still want the partner to own the other avenues of service within their partner. So yes, this program is hardware support only.
White glove area?
Yep.
Do you maintain the images? If you've got a custom image with just like I have a custom 20,000 employees.
Yep.
And they have something probably like 5 or 6 different golden images that give it all.
Yeah, so we work with a partner. Every partner is a little bit different, but yes, we would work with you in that instance to make sure that the images are correct.
Would maintain the images, or you would?
The partner would maintain the images. Yes. Yep. And in the case of that, a lot of our partners choose not to have us do the pre-config services. They would like to do that, so they get the hardware and do all those services themselves. It's up to every partner. It does. That's correct. And what we tried to do when we put this program together was to solicit partner feedback so we can be a little bit more, I would say, a little bit more flexible in the solution with every partner, right, compared to some other offerings out there. So all of this, I want to make a point here too that yes, you did mention that it is hardware support, but we are able to not just take the hardware refresh. It's not the notebooks and just the tablets. It's not just the 2-in-1s. If you need to do an entire office refresh, although not DASable, which is the term that I'm using these days, DASable, you can still roll those on to the same agreement, right? So you can do batteries, you can do servers, you can do cabling, you can do all of those things and roll those into one monthly payment for your customer. The support end of those two things, you can support all the other equipment. We're going to support the notebooks and the desktops and all the DASable SKUs. Okay, you can go ahead.
I have a question on that.
Yes.
If we want to eliminate 2 points of contact with the customer, hardware support versus software support,
Yep.
Can we broker that connection?
Absolutely.
And ask for it to do a callback?
Absolutely. We want you, and some of our partners want to do that, and some of our partners do not. It's entirely up to the partner. Each one of these is a little bit different. But yes, if you would like to be that first point of contact, you can absolutely do that. The only thing we ask is that because we're owning the help desk part, that you're there to do some diagnostics, even though you probably got it all figured out and you know exactly what's wrong. Before we roll a truck or reimburse one of you guys to go out there to your partner site, we've got to ask the standard questions, plug it in, reboot it, that sort of stuff, There are other perks to the program depending on fleet size, right? So accidental damage is covered as part of the program. There's some fine print down here, but we also offer accidental damage coverage. I mean, just if someone goes crazy and starts to knock all your devices out with a bat, that's probably not going to fall under the accidental damage SKU, but we do offer that as part of the program as well. Go ahead, Sean. Flex up, flex down. So customers or your customers, sometimes they need to downsize or they need to upgrade. And as part of the program, aside from doing another agreement, depending on fleet size, we allow you to flex up and flex down. Obviously, we need that to be more than 20 units. It's within 10%. So if a few folks have to leave the office or you need to add a few seats, you can add those to the existing agreement and make that coterminous. And if you prefer to do like your end user needs to open a completely new doctor's office, then we probably do a new agreement and we can talk depending on where they are within the process to make those either coterminous or just end at the end of 24 or 36 months. Go ahead. This is a very confusing slide even to me, so I don't have anything else to talk about here. Yeah, so we have a booth. Thankfully, Microsoft has given us a corner of their booth to use today. So if you have any questions specifically about the program, you can find me walking around. You can find me at the booth. There's resources online. They hang off the D&H website, so feel free to check those out, and hopefully I'll see you guys at the booth today. I see you have a question. I'll catch up with you if that's okay. Go ahead.
How much are customers paying for your support services?
So we do mock-up and model quotes. I'll get with you offline. We can get you some numbers.
The reason I ask this is because hardware doesn't fail very often.
It's true. But yeah, so well, I can tell you this. All of the deals that we've done so far with all of the partners that we're in conjunction with, no one has said our price is not in market. So, and if you would like more specific information, I'm happy to get it to you. Yeah, cool. I'll hand it back over to Paul.
Yeah, so let's do the drawing.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah. So, turn my head. You know what? I'll be the winner then. He like jumped out. It wanted to be picked. 590910. Really? Congrats. Your friend to your left won. 590910. Congratulations. So thank you guys. Come check out the floor. We got cloud, we got devices, we got DAS. We can answer your questions, and I appreciate the time. Thank you.